I've had 2 albums come out, and then I have 2 planned to come out in the future. And I created that project that I was talking about, that side project. It's called Neon Reject, and have a couple EPs out with that. And yeah, excited to keep rocking out. Just, always pivoting and trying to challenge myself in some way.
Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of the TF Cast. This is your favorite arts and culture podcast based in Mankato, Minnesota. And my name is Willis Stout.
Hey, Grum here. It is August 31st, 2022 here in the solarium.
And I'm your host, Jacob Bases, here today to introduce friend of the show, repeat guest, Jared Smilebro. Jared, you gotta give us the recap. You gotta tell us what's going on with you, what's going on with the new music. Just kick it off.
Hello, yes. I got something in my throat. We've been sucking on candy and drinking a lot of things that are...
Energy drinks.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by the team at Triple Falls. Triple Falls is an independent media and production company, and you can hire us for a project. Just reach out to us at info@triplefalls.org to find out more and let us know what you're thinking. Your support makes these types of productions possible. Also, we're putting out merch. You can get this for the first time ever at Pride coming up here on September 10th. So come stop by our tent, say hi, and grab yourself a t-shirt. Now back to the show.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, what was that?
You're gonna tell us about yourself.
Yeah. About who I am, or like a recap, or
Yeah, like a recap. You were on the show. What episode was that? This would be good information to know.
36,
36.
sounds about right.
92 or 93 now. And yeah, so this is 60 episodes later. That's like a year. You've got another album out. Some life decisions, all kinds of stuff that's happened.
Yeah. I watched that back recently, and it was a crazy reflection point of where I thought I was going and where I think I am or whatever. But yeah, since then I've had 2 albums come out, and then I have 2 planned to come out in the future. And I created that project that I was talking about, that side project. It's called Neon Reject, and have a couple EPs out with that. And yeah, excited to keep rocking out. Just always pivoting and trying to challenge myself in some way.
Sure, that's a lot of music. We got to shoot the Neon Reject, the opening. We shot it down in the, what is that thing called? It's in Willis's basement. It's a cistern. We shot it in the cistern down in Willis's basement. We did a live stream of that, and then 2 albums as Smilebro. That's a lot of music to put out in a year, anytime.
Yeah.
Also, sorry, I thought you were done. My first gig ever with Triple Falls was the Smilebro gig in here.
Oh, yeah. The Love, Fear, and Peace Throughout.
That was my literal first time recording someone at all.
That was beautiful. That whole thing that we recorded felt like a dream almost. That was a crazy cool experience. Yeah. But to the bunch of music thing. Oh God. Yeah, I've actually been thinking about that of I've put out so much music, and I've debated whether it's whether I have a low standard for what can go into the world, which I don't really think is true, because I spend countless hours on these songs. Or if it's that I write stories in these songs that I think are worth sharing, and I know that my production and my singing and everything will get better over time. So it's better to get them as good as I can now and put them into the world, and then keep moving forward than to just have a huge storage on my computer of like old songs that'll never see the light of day.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to like stick with like building like a brand that tells stories and like grows with their audience, I think, you know, the people who are there from the beginning, they stay attached to that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never heard I don't think people complain about having that kind of thing out there, or I haven't heard it here at least.
I also think it's important to put stuff out because completing things is a skill. And if you don't actually practice pushing something to the end, even if you don't like it, like you just won't gain that skill over time.
Yeah.
Yeah. You did quite a bit of collaboration on the album. And I just think it's cool how many people you included, from your roommates to Ben is on this album, right? The next part?
I think I'm moving him to, so I have Eclectic Part 1 that just came out. Eclectic Part 2 is going to come out in the next few months. And then I'm planning for the album after that, which I think will be called The Return of Chameleon Sheep. And I think Ben will be on that one. Because the story of, I try to have like a story for each album. Uncomfortable was like this breakup, kind of like figuring myself out kind of thing. And then Love, Fear, and Peace Throughout was like a terrible existential crisis while I was trying to prove that I was like a adequate musician, and that I could sing without auto-tune and I could actually play most of the instruments and whatever else. And then Eclectic is like this trying to go in as many directions as possible musically and production style. I'm trying, I should mention that the name Eclectic came from the last time I was here. And that's what I used as a promo, was Jacob talking about my music and saying that it was eclectic. Because yeah, that is where the album came from. When you said that, I was like, oh, I love that, because that is the word that I've been looking for this craziness that I've been putting into the world, where it's like trying to pull from all these places that I love and make it cohesive in some way.
They all have been a little bit different from everything I've heard, but it seems like the through line is this kind of like desire to like put your experience or storytelling out. Is that one of those things where you feel it's like how you're pushing the project forward, or is it just something that you have to do? Like, would you be doing this in another medium if it wasn't for music?
Yeah, I think it is the reason that I love it. I love making songs more than anything, like even performing or making the surrounding content for songs. And they are kind of like a diary that you get to hear. They're a diary of my life that you get to hear 3 months to a year after they actually happen, which, sometimes kind of sucks. But I think it's also beautiful that I am able to like express those things. Like I talked with a friend, and I was like, it feels so weird putting out songs about people that I love or like heartbreak or something. Like I never want to slander anybody or like make them feel bad. It's just like I'm taking this little inkling of a feeling that I'm having right now and trying to amplify it and fully express it and, write a song about it. And a lot of the songs are inspired by more than one situation or more than one person. But when I put them out in the world, I do worry that like, one of those people might, take, I guess I don't know. I don't know whether I wish they didn't hear it or I wish they did or whatever, but it's just what it is. It's like, it's how I get through things. And it's cool that I can look back to Chameleon Sheep, the first EP album thing, and see that the last song or one of the last songs was like one word. It was like, I struggled to say I love you to people. And I thought it was like overused and it was kind of like tarnished to me. And now I can like comfortably say that to my friends and stuff, and like I feel better about it. So it's even cool to see myself evolve through my music. Like it's like you can literally go back to a song and see like, things I was struggling with. And like the Uncomfortable album, the person that we had such like it was a hard separation for me. I'm so insanely happy for her and her current situation, and like I could have never provided whatever situation she is in currently. So like in hindsight, I don't know, all of it's beautiful and whatever. It's fun to look back on, but sometimes in the moment it's a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that there is a little bit of like a negative energy around breakups in like the way our culture works in general. Like it's hard to talk about what's going on with like someone who you split ways with without people interpreting it as negative. And even if it hurts, like you can easily, you know, express that without, you know, having it be like that. I don't know. I've had my fair share of heartbreak recently too. And I feel like I'm regularly saying things like I'm happy for someone, but I have this feeling. So like I appreciate the sentiment, and like I agree with you that it's a healthy thing to do, which is probably why I'm talking about this right now.
Well, and to have a deep discography that shows the depth of your artistic development and kind of has those moments captured over time, I think is a really important part of building a strong project that has depth to it too. Because to your point about, you know, like putting out too much or something, like if you just put out less songs, it'd just be like less there. It'd be like less, I don't know. We got to know our shit from our gold, but like, I think you got a solid discography.
Well,
out.
I mean, the first like 3 years of making music, there was like thousands of songs that never saw the light of day. So like maybe now it's just like I've gotten better at like knowing when to make music and how to dump it into something. I have tried to rely less. I think music is more of like I have to really feel something to like kind of get inspired or roll with it to some degree. Sometimes it works in other ways, but that's why I got more into comedy, was because it felt like another way to express stories that didn't have to be intense. Like you could tell a story about a monotonous task or like something you just observed or something, where in music I think I struggle more because it does feel more like a diary for me. So I think it's nice to have multiple outlets to not just over dump in one direction and have to be really intense.
How do, with that kind of like prolific output in terms of the number of songs written and stuff like that, what do you gravitate towards when you're selecting like a song that you're really excited about versus one that you can tell just doesn't hit? And you know, they could be very similar in a lot of ways, but there's something about the one that speaks to you.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's just like a different feeling between songs, because there are some songs that I'm like, oh, I know this is like Love, Fear, and Peace throughout that whole album. I was like, oh, I know this like isn't going to do well, but it's something that I went through and I think it's worth sharing. And I enjoy it. I enjoy all these things, for these little stories for what they are, even though I knew it wasn't like, you know, maybe what was expected or something. So there's some level of like giving people something that's digestible and something they'll enjoy versus like, I think I really one thing that I've been really thinking about is like that I hold on to demos in a weird way. Because I often hear like a lot of local artists or artists that I look up to, they'll post like the demo of a song on Instagram or something. And I'll hear that and I'll be like, this song is beautiful, to like put this out immediately. And then like 3 months later, they put it out and it's like a studio recording and it's all polished and stuff. And then I'm like, there's something not there now. Like I loved what I saw in that brief little moment. So I think I try to hold on to that thing to the point that I compromise the like ability to be super polished. Even though I do want to do that sometimes, and I think I've gotten closer to it. But
yeah, I find that I find that I hold on to albums like that from artists, and sometimes when an artist like has a breakout album that feels a little bit gritty, like I'll really kind of like that like tone, and a lot of times there's like some kind of like musical like growth that's really apparent in the album. but then later on they're like more polished, like this is probably the stuff that they wanted to make, and then I'm like, meh.
Yeah. No, I've seen that so many times. Like some of my favorite artists, they're like in the best studio with the best producers now, and I'm like, I miss when you were like making beats in your basement and like making it work or something. Like that sound is like harder to, but from the same opposite perspective, like once my music starts getting traction, I think my output will significantly decrease.
Well, do you think that it might just be easier for you to like relate to that? Like, you know, we see someone who's like, you know, on the YouTube grind or whatever, and you can like see them confronting the same problems that you do. Like, it's really easy to like relate to that on like a direct level, you know, I mean, at least for everyone in this room.
Absolutely. I saw an interview with Flume where he was like, they were like, oh, when do you stop? I'm paraphrasing and I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what he said. It was something along the lines of like, when did it get hard to like innovate or something? And he's like, as soon as it started working. It was like, right as soon as it became popular, it's like, oh, okay, now, because I've put out like 3.5 albums, I guess, and then EPs along the way, and to almost no audience in the grand scheme of things, which I'm like so grateful for, because that's so sick. Like, I think having that amount of experience and time to like work on those things is so cool, that like once it does work out, I might already have an album that's ready to go. Cause like right now I have 2 albums that are almost ready to go. So I'll be more confident to just keep rolling than to be like, oh, that worked. Now let's try to replicate that or something. But yeah.
What about the, you know, performance aspect? Cause I mean, I've talked to you off camera a whole bunch, and you've had like some aspirations for like what kind of stage shows you want to do and different things. And I've seen you do, I mean, we've filmed a couple live performances and like a DJ show, but I haven't seen any of your new stuff performed out yet. Like what's your plan for getting this into the ears of bar goers? Or
Yeah, we talked about this last time too, and live stuff has always been a struggle for me. I think I don't know. Recently I've debated on what's holding me back, and I think it's partially that thing where the first time I perform live will set certain people's expectations that they go there or whatever, which that shouldn't even be a thing to hold me back. But I've been hitting open mics as much as I can and trying to play out new songs that I write on the guitar, like a new song every time. But in terms of the grand scheme of live things, the early songs are really hard for me to sing, and I don't know that I really, I think I could, but I think the like last few songs are like, I have like over 50 songs out as Smilebro, but I don't think that I could sing all of them live or something. So now I'm getting to ones where I can like go from soft to like more power, and I'm trying out different voices and like a lot of different energy. So I think once I really get all that and I feel confident about that thing, then I'll do it. Or if music, like a song just goes crazy and they're like, hey, you're playing a show in Amsterdam, I'd be like, all right, got to figure it out. I'll see you there. Like,
I would say that you do got to play. To your other point, though, it's good to get out and play while you don't have 10,000 people watching you.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's also funny because you and me are the opposite. I would much rather play live than record. I'm just way more comfortable. I like to feel the energy of the room. Second there's a mic on my amp that's actually hitting record, it's like a whole different mindset for me. So I think that's really interesting that like I tell people to like play out way before you're ready. It's because it's like a whole different skill. Yeah.
I think where I keep getting hung up is that I want it to be this huge theatrical experience with like a programmed light show and me performing 10 instruments and singing better than I've ever sang in my life. And that's not like a good expectation to have for your first live performance as a project. So
All I hear when you said that was a lot of troubleshooting.
yeah, no, for sure.
Well, it's not even consistent with what you just said like 10 minutes ago when you said like I really miss some of those moments with some of my favorite performers where like they were doing some shit in their basement. And it's like, I mean, like that, like I remember like scrappy performances that bands I've been in did, and like I miss those. Like I loved those, and like I know they weren't great.
Maybe I want the studio polished thing to be my live thing, and I want the like my songs out in the world to be like the like rawness.
Oh, the old reverso.
Yeah, I don't know, because that is like, now that you said that is kind of like where my head's at. Is like, if I'm live, I want it to be almost perfect, but in studio recordings, I'm scrappy and whatever else. But we'll see where that goes. I don't know.
Well, that makes a lot of sense to me too, because you get to really control the event when you're doing a show. Like, I think it would be like a poor degree of planning if you'd never thought like what feeling does the band give to the audience who are there when I'm literally in charge of everything, you know?
Yeah, you have a very captive audience in a different way.
Yeah, because I've seen people get up with a guitar and a beautiful voice and do that, and I think that's awesome. I just think like I just want it to be like something people haven't seen before, which is like probably like the most unoriginal thought. But I don't know, like my music, I try to push that boundary too. It's like I try to mix things that I've never heard mixed before, which makes it like hard to be commercially or organically sought after or something. But I think once it starts working, it'll be cool. And I'm excited for the future of wherever this is going.
You mentioned you were starting to explore some different like vocal techniques and pushing and pulling. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, for sure. I've talked about this with Willis and a few others off camera, but I keep playing with my voice. So when I'm recording recently, I've just been moving my voice and my throat, moving my voice and my throat to like make different sounds to see if there's anything that I can find. And there's a couple, like, I feel like it's like, I consider it like a video game. It's like unlocking voices or something. And I can look back on songs like I Really Want to Hate You. I'm all falsetto. And that's like my actual voice, which sounds so different than my like regular voice. And then Waste My Time With You is like that like kind of gritty punk. That was the first time that I hit that like distortion in my voice going into that. And then recently I've had these like, I don't know, like character-esque gritty voices or something that I'm excited to share. And then I've been trying to like really go into the like scream grittiness in my voice without, destroying my voice or whatever. But I think that would be even cooler to be able to go from like a folk voice to like a pop voice to like a whisper voice to like a scream all in one song. And maybe it doesn't even have any guitars in it, but you're like using that vocal aesthetic or something. Like it'd be cool to like make my song sound like 5 people were featured or something.
Yeah, that'd be really neat. What sort of, are you looking for something to settle with then, or are you enjoying the process of kind of like collecting them?
I don't think that I could. I thought about branching out with like different artist projects for the voices because I thought that'd be fun, and I enjoy like creating new brands or whatever. But until that makes sense, it'll make sense. But I think as of right now, it's just like trying to collect these things and then know when and how to use them. Is like, because I would have never predicted that I would have gotten these many voices. I thought that was just my singing voice. Like in the first, like all my life, I was like, this is my singing voice. And now I'm like, oh, like I can do all these different cool things with my throat. And because this is a synthesizer, like you're manipulating different parts to like make it sound different.
Yeah. Well, even since our last we recorded with you, you've really like come into using that tool, being a vocalist in that way. And like, how's that maybe affected your songwriting and your process in the writing studio?
I think it's allowed me to try to expand out past that, just having one chorus that repeats the whole song, and just saying few words, and really trying to branch out because I can carry energy or switch flows or be more dynamic with my voice throughout the song. So it's more fun to perform and it's more fun to listen to and helps tell the story. Yeah, I think that's it.
With writing more, do you start with the writing process, or do you get a good like demo down and instrumental and then add the lyrics?
I think it's always different. The best songs that I write are on guitar for sure, when I can just write out the whole thing. And then this is a whole nother problem where I write songs on guitar that are beautiful and like the best, songwriting and energy that I've ever whatever. And then when I translate them to recordings for like the studio, they never capture what I originally wanted. So then I get frustrated because it's like I'm turning into that thing that I was just talking about, because I was like, oh, I love this song when I play it on guitar and I sing it in my living room. But then when I try to record it, it's like, whatever. It's like, no, this isn't, I have to settle. I have to like do the best that I can and hope that it like ends up wherever I want it to be.
I know you're not asking for advice, but room mics. I would highly recommend, if like singing in your living room captures a certain thing, just throw, even if it's like, I would just throw a mic in there, even if it's just like a large diaphragm in the other room.
Yeah, that sounds cool. When we did that campfire thing, the like atmosphere mic that we had really added a lot of cool energy to
for our live sessions, it's like, if you get it in mixed right and you EQ'd right, it's like night and day when you turn it on and off.
Yeah, I think another part of that is the timing thing, because like when I'm just playing it on guitar, I'm not worried about a grid. And then when I try to lock it to a grid so I can take multiple takes, add synths and like other stuff, then it loses a little bit of that character. And I could go in there and like modulate the tempo to change and stuff, but I never get it as good as just like playing it the pace that you feel and whatever that is. So that's a hard thing that I've had to get between.
Jacob Collier can play in a certain percentage of swing without having to hear the metronome.
Yeah, I saw that. That is crazy.
He's like, 60% is like,
that's.
But I really like 72. It's like, it's like, what the heck? But yeah, I have a lot of the same problem, especially being in Onion Bun, because we almost have to record to a metronome, especially if we want to be able to retrack anything and overdub it. And then my first album, we didn't. And there is something to say about just like letting the drummer record and then just treating him like the metronome when the feel is completely different. Pretty much no bluegrass bands. It's like basically a faux pas to play to a metronome in a bluegrass band. And it's for that exact thing that you're talking about. It's like, and I mean, that's the difference between seeing a live band too. There's push, there's pull, there's all that.
Yeah. I've seen like the Jacob Collier.
I think that's how you say it.
I don't know how to say his name, but I see a lot of people like that are like hyper talented, especially in certain directions. And it's easy to feel insecure when trying to like compare yourself to someone like that. But I've recently tried to pull it back and be like, if I was that good at that thing, I wouldn't be as like good at all these other things, because everything takes time and everything takes like 1,000 hours. And I'm pumped with like where I'm good at things or something like that, because I really enjoy that.
I mean, also, I don't think Jacob Collier makes the best music, or that anyone thinks that.
He hasn't broke into like popular culture for sure. He's like a Mozart level genius, but like he doesn't make stuff for the masses for sure.
Yeah, that's almost exactly like what I'm saying, is that like he makes cool music, but it's like he's more good at that like timing and like musical like precision and like stuff that like gets us musicians all like, like that like gets in our nerd brain. But that's not exactly what everyone wants to hear all of the time.
I've only heard a couple songs, but I assume it's similar to like with dance music, like producer music, where once you start like making music for so long, you start making music for like other DJs, not like people.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, one thing I wanted to say before we get off of it is I actually was watching a Therapy Gecko episode and he said something that was pretty inspiring to me about what you were just saying about like seeing someone like Jacob Collier. And he was saying that he always attributes jealousy like that to ungratefulness, and that you should be careful that you're not being grateful for what you have accomplished, what you've been able to do, and to just like it's pretty easy, and it's pretty easy. And then especially like one day you're like doing something and you're like, man, I didn't know how to do literally anything I'm doing like 6 months ago, and I'm sitting here being like, how come I wasn't famous why didn't I have a Grammy at 14 like Jacob Collier? You know, I just thought that really helped me at least. Just
No, yeah, that's super true. I think it's easy to like neglect the talents and the passions that you have when you're pursuing something that looks unsuccessful, maybe from an external perspective, or even when it is successful. Like a lot of the people I look up to are like more sad than they've ever been because their thing is going well. And that's always been something that I've struggled with. It's like, one of the things I care about the most is my music being heard and felt by a lot of people. I don't care about a Grammy because like that's a voting system, and like I've disagreed with the choices they've made in the past. So like I shouldn't take it too seriously if I'm in that running either. But like I just want people to hear my stuff, and same goes for live performances. It's like I just want a lot of people to like feel something and be there in the moment. I don't know where that started, but I lost it halfway through.
Well, what are you're planning some next steps, both for the project and for you personally? I feel like you're you're going to be leaving Mankato to spend some time in the cities, and then got a move planned to LA. Well, one-way ticket kind of action. Why don't you? Well, I guess like, what are you excited for? What are you interested in? What are you nervous about? Just go like topical first.
Sure. So today is actually my last day of my lease in Mankato. So I wanted to get this in before I left because the last podcast I did with you guys was a great reflecting point for me and like my musical career. And I feel like there's a lot of chaos going on right now in my life surrounding all of my projects and everything that I'm trying to pursue and get after. I'm moving to the cities for a few months, and then in January I'm going to LA. In a month also I'm going to like a conference in LA. It's called Vid Summit. I just spontaneously called Willis at like 1 a.m. and I was like, hey man, you think this is a good idea? And he's like, well, what's the worst case scenario? You like waste money, time, and embarrass yourself? That doesn't sound so bad. So I was like, yeah, I agree with that. I'm going to go do that and try to meet some people before I officially move out there for a little while. But I have some people that I know out there that I'm going to, try to get coffee with and see if there's anybody they know that, is interested in making cool stuff. Because my headspace going into all of that isn't like, oh, I need to desperately be like a pop star or something. It's like, really just, I want to make cool stuff with cool people. And I want to find people that are like driven to like get after it and, make stuff because you love it or whatever, which, I don't know what the results will be. And it could be that I go out there and I just learn that I should stay here or something. I don't know. Like, I don't have grand expectations. I just, want a little spice in life. And I love the weather and the area. Like, if no one lived in that part of California, I would still live there on like an island probably or something.
You talked to me about feeling a little bit of worry about regretting not going to at this point. Like, I think you mentioned something about how before, you thought you were interested, but it was easy for you to kind of like talk yourself out of it. But now maybe it feels more right, or you feel more ready, or your projects. I mean, at this, like we mentioned, you put out 2.5, 3 albums since we last talked a year and a half ago. or something. And so like it seems from like a discography perspective alone, you've got to showing up with something.
Right now I'm like happily single for like the first time in my life, which is like I don't know if that's worth mentioning, but it is something significant in my life. Like I've been dating someone or like been talking to people since I was like 12, and like trying to analyze that for myself, it's probably like some need for validation through others that was kind of hard to get through. Like I don't know, in the first couple of months of being single, I was like, I'm alone. What do I do? Like, this is scary. Now I'm just alone with my thoughts. But now I'm doing good. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying life. And dating someone doesn't sound like fantastically better. And I don't know what the switch was, but I feel good. And going to LA, I don't have any obligation to stay here, relationship-wise, job-wise, education-wise, or whatever else. So, and I have like some money to be able to sustain out there for a little while. So I think if I don't go, I would really regret it, because it feels like a better option than, staying in some regards. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know.
Yeah, man. Well, it's like, it's one of those unknowable things. It's like it's a big choice. It's a big choice. I feel like we've talked a lot about it over the years, but I think it's an exciting opportunity to just try something new and different and change it up. And like how I see it is that like you kind of know sort of what to expect out of like continuing in most cases, but when you change stuff up, there's like a real, I don't know, that's how you get new ideas and like new perspectives and meet new people. So
I think I'm making better music than I've ever made in my life too. Like whenever I do sessions with you or Andrew or whatever, I just like feel like I can get in a flow state and really dial in things way better than I ever could. So I feel confident that if I was in the room with even someone I admire, that I could hold my own in some area, like I'd be okay, or like provide interest in some way. And recently I realized like it's kind of weird that we stay doing the same things like habitually. Like you could literally like sell all your stuff and move to another country or something, and no one does, which makes sense. But I don't know, I just wanted a little bit of like, I really love music and I really love art and I really love telling stories, and I would do a show like anywhere in the world. Like I would sleep in like a terrible hotel anywhere and, perform my music, or like just like make music with somebody if I thought that it was fun and exciting and I was sharing a cool story. Like, so trying to seek out more of those opportunities, because right now I feel like I've done a lot of research and development for the last couple of years to like figure out who I am as an artist and what this stuff is. And the more I like dive into this project and all of my projects, I realize that I'm kind of just like a collage storyteller, because in every medium, Photoshop, graphic design, 3D, whatever, I'm really good at taking these pieces and putting them all together to tell a different story, and that's what I really enjoy doing. So I don't even know that I'm specifically a musician. I think I'm just like kind of a storyteller, because that's I get most excited about that part. I mean, like 3D with Blender and stuff, I'll take a pre-made 3D assets and I'll tweak them to my liking and create a new world with all these things that other people have created. And music, I'll take samples and I'll throw them together and create this atmosphere and sound that other people haven't made before. And with Photoshop, I'll do the same thing. You take photos of all these different things and you pull them together. So yeah, I'm just like a scrapbooker or something.
There you go. That's cool. You mentioned a handful of your other the range of projects or processes or software applications that you're getting into. How's that sort of integrated into your music over the last year with the 3D design and stuff like that.
Yeah. So the only reason I got into 3D was this guy.
Shout out to Blender.
Willis showed me Blender. And at first I was like, this will be really fun. Once my music takes off and I have like a summer off to like write music and whatever else, I'll buy a huge computer and I'll dive into Blender and I'll make cool visuals for my tour. I thought that's where it was going to end up, but it ended up being that I dabbled in it a little more than I thought I would, and now that's my main source of income, is like making 3D visuals for brands, which is dope. I'm so excited about it. I'm able to, push myself in that direction, and also it allows me to be the director, the cinematographer, the actor, and like scene builder in a movie. I made like the short film for Divine Fruition, the EP of Neon Reject and Luster, which is like a 15-minute 3D animated movie. And I was able to like fulfill all the roles that I'd have to pay for other people to do if I was doing it in real life. So it's really cool to have that freedom to like have stories exist in your brain and then bring them to life without needing absurd costs and people to be passionate about them as well. But it takes a lot of time. So I've struggled with having a lot of ideas that I want to wrap around music and other projects and make short films, but then I'm like, I don't have time. Like I have to scrap it, or how do I tell the same quality story with half the amount of time building it and rendering? Because like it's never going to come out if it's going to try to be what's in my head.
That's it seems like you were just giving a pitch for some of the like upcoming AI generative systems, and then like being the kind of artist who could coordinate them all night well. Which says, that's a space I've been keeping an eye on, and
we'll see where it goes, because I've played with like the AI visual stuff for video and like photo, and it's exciting. I think if it starts to go in a further direction, I'll be well inclined to get into it and really execute those fun ideas. That whole debate of like whether AI will kill art has been one that's like interesting, because it just, to some degree, it just sounds like the analog versus digital people. It's like, oh, this new thing is gonna crush the human part of whatever. But so far I've seen people take the photos that like DALL-E gives and then they mash them together, and it's just a faster way to get to the product. So it's like they didn't spend 20 hours rendering it in Blender. They spent like 5 minutes, and then they like whatever. So that's cool. I'm excited about it, and I think it'll be sick.
Yeah, I think it'll be really neat to see how we adapt those technologies and innovate, or how art can continue to be art and be cool and be free and fun and able to explore with it.
I often try to think of like, where will I be like hard-headed or something, or like have a bad opinion as like an old person. I try to like
if you know this already, that's awesome.
Well, I try to preemptively guess where I could be.
All right.
Like with the AI thing, it's like, like, oh, these kids are gonna like type in a prompt and get like a video that took me like 30 hours to make. And it's like, okay, I heard a different version of that about the music that I make, where they're like, oh, you just mess with sounds, or you push a button on your computer and it makes like crazy sounds or whatever. It's like, that's not entirely true, because sure, it takes me like 2 seconds to make the sound you made 20 years ago, but now I'm making like sounds that take me 20 hours that are like further pushing the thing. So I think it's always like a progression.
I think you can find those arguments all over the place. I mean, with found art and stuff like that, people start putting things like that up, and of course people get angry about it because there's like, oh, you didn't put any time or effort in. But I don't think art is a measure of work ever, So as long as you are getting people to see what your creative vision is, then if they're willing to consume it and it's your like desire to put it out there, Like, who's to say it's not?
And maybe even if they aren't willing to see it.
Yeah.
And just like, it's just you. I think that's probably still art.
I always say, like if I go to see a band, I do not care not even a little bit how good they are at their instruments. I'll go watch people that have no idea what they're doing in a basement, just playing some punk music, and they just got their instruments last week. All I care about is if there's like intention and effort. Like that's that, and not even a certain amount of effort. It's just like if I can tell you're trying. I remember. I'm probably directly calling out friends of mine right now, but I just remember in the hardcore scene, there was like this serious level of like, we're doing all the hardcore band things. We have the gym shorts, and we have, what it more was about is it just felt like they all had to do the same things, and it was just like iterated so many times. And all I cared about is if it felt like they were trying to make something cool and not just try to be a thing, I guess.
Yeah, I saw this like crazy inspiring video of Guns N' Roses where they were talking about finding Slash and how they were all the members of Guns N' Roses were basically just the misfits that didn't fit fit into any of the bands of that time, or like in LA or whatever. And they just got together because no one else kind of wanted them. But how they found Slash was he was like the only person who didn't sound like Eddie Van Halen at that time.
Yeah.
And he like played with soul. Like you could tell that he was telling a story through this guitar that he was playing, like it, and there were no words or whatever. So like that, I try to keep that in my head whenever I think about like, you know, trends of genres and stuff like that, or sounds and stuff, where it's like, I don't need to be the third best Flume. Like I'd rather be the best version of me or whatever. Like most of the artists I look up to were like, they were fumbling in the dark and landed on whatever they put into the world. And I think I do that almost to a fault.
It's still cool though to look back and be like, oh man, this must be right when I started getting into Flume because I started doing this and this. So that's like I can point out to you in my music writing when I like started listening to Corey Wong, when I started listening to Tosin Abasi.
That's volume automation.
Yeah, no, that's too accurate. I think the only difference now is that I don't do tutorials on how to make that stuff anymore. I just am like, I'll just hear their music. I'll get into a vibe of like a month where I'm listening to a certain artist or a certain type of music, and I'll be like, what does my version of this music sound like? And now it sounds like almost entirely different. But like early on, it was like I followed almost a tutorial and I sounded extremely close. But
well, I don't even think there's something wrong with that, because that's the same as if I like really want to learn a guitar technique, I'll look up a song that has it in it.
Yeah, no,
so
I don't.
That's the same thing.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just am more excited about making my own version of it now, and I have the ability to. Because early on, I didn't know what I was doing. So like a tutorial was all of the sources, or like it was the tool that I needed to get to somewhere where I was excited. Where now I think I have watched enough tutorials where I feel like I can make things I'm excited about without having to like Google something.
Yeah. And you were able to get there faster because you did that. Sorry, let's go ahead.
It'd be funny to make one of those in the mirror, like day one videos. You're like Googling like how to make dubstep. And day two, you'd be like how to make Skrillex bass. Week one, it'd be like how to make that like you just get more detailed in your searches. And then eventually it's like, how does my artistic like project take inspiration from this idea and use my like skills to use these tools to get this result?
Yeah, it's like Blender or anything. It's like the first couple months you like stop because you're like so frustrated that you can't solve a problem. Like I can't move the camera. I don't know what I'm doing. And then so you're just like, all right, we're done for the day. But like once you get to the point where you don't have to Google anything, I think you've caught stride and you like, you know, are able to like create some fun stuff.
What point do you think that is on the learning curve? Is that like 60 or 70% and like for some of these software products?
I think I don't actually don't know how to quantify that, because I think there's always something for you to learn in the thing. And if you master like all of Ableton and everything it does, like I think it's less likely that you're like breaking the rules. So yeah, it's hard to say, but I think once you get past that, that's where originality starts to happen. Is like once you stop, and not to say that you can't be original with like, because I've looked up certain sounds that I didn't understand and tried to create, like the Neon Reject thing, which is really fun because last time I was on the podcast, I was like, oh, I'm going to break this into 2 projects, and then I was debating on the names of that or whatever. But now that's alive, because how Smilebro started was this like dance project. If you look at all like the first 5, all the Tan covers up until All My Life, it was like a dance project entirely, where I was just chopping up vocals and trying to tell stories without singing. And I really missed that. So, and I was making all these songs on the side that I was like, I didn't sing on this, so it doesn't feel like Smilebro anymore. So I was able to create that new world that I can express those things. And it's actually like the opposite brand of Smilebro now, where it's like, and you know, I was going to keep it anonymous, but you know, it wouldn't get anywhere if I just kept it anonymous.
We're an hour into this podcast, so it might still be anonymous.
That's
Very deep.
That's true too. But yeah, so they're opposite brands. Like I'm wearing a mask, I'm wearing an outfit that's like monochrome, and like, and the music, there's less words, but I'm like, I have this new song that I wrote that's coming out soon for Neon Reject. I tell this whole story that like it was this day that I had interacting with a person, and I wrote the song trying to make the sounds how I felt throughout the day. So the song evolves like, it was like, there's no wrong answers if it's accurate, if it makes me feel the same way that moment felt. So I was able to tell a story throughout the whole song of like this you know, rise and decline of like an event or whatever. And I thought that was so beautiful. I was like, oh, this is sick. And as you might know, I do like the story behind my music for Smilebro. And I was like, oh, I won't be able to tell anyone about this, or like nobody will know. But I think that's cool that I have one project where I'm overly transparent, and the other I'm like closed off and it's all your interpretation, and I'm almost absent of the project or something like that.
What's been like cool about seeing that in the world over the last year, if you want to kind of like reflect on Neon Reject for a minute?
Sure. I think it's like accidentally more dialed or something than my Smilebro project. Maybe because I started making dance music sooner, or maybe because the first DJ performance I did was like at our house for like a Halloween party, and I wore a mask because I thought Smilebro was going to wear a mask. So it was like the smiley face. So it's crazy that like Neon Reject became like this thing, or it split the way that it did, because like the mask had a smile on it, and now like Neon Reject is a thing, and which eventually this is something I'm going to throw in the deep cut, because like if you made it this far, but like my end goal is to like I have few like high goals or whatever. It's like multi-platinum record, headlining Lollapalooza as Neon Smile, which is like a combination of my 2 projects, or however many projects I have at the time, where it's like extremely dynamic, where it goes into the craziness of like the dance world and then pulls back to like soft and acoustic and like something that you could like cry over or whatever. That's like from my you know, without having hindsight, that's where I am trying to project my energy into, like that idea coming to life. And yeah.
Looking back on this last year then, since our last podcast, are there any things that you think have had like an outsized impact on your trajectory towards that goal? Like, with that being sort of the long-term, medium-term vision, long-term vision, what have you done over the last year that you felt like feels right? Or like,
yeah. Did does the ambition meet the, or does the energy meet the ambition or whatever?
Less about like have you succeeded and more about like which parts have like
felt like it's gaining traction towards that. I think I've done 2 DJ sets. I think they were both, I mean, they were like headlining Mankato or whatever, which is like cool. I don't know how to say that. Like I mean, like we didn't sell out like the biggest venue.
They were
here.
shows that we threw for us.
Yeah. So they weren't like, I'm like headlining. But it was a headline slot. I don't know. It was like there was a lot of energy and it was great. And there was a lot of pressure too, like internally and externally. So I think it's like a valid experience to reference. I felt like Neon Reject, I did those 2 DJ sets, and I thought that they were sick. Like I thought I could probably just go out on the road and like do that very soon. If I just threw all my energy at that thing, I could run with it. And making that collaboration with Luster, like those songs were beautiful and told like an amazing story. And I feel like in the last year, I've grown so much as like a singer and as a performer, and really made music, started to get close to making music that I think is getting close to the thing. I keep saying that. I'm keep saying the next album will be the one that's like, it's dialed. But I really feel that. I really feel that like I'm getting close to songs that I could crush, like singing, and I could maybe play guitar on some of them, and that I don't know, maybe it's like a lack of narrow focus. But I think me and Zach actually had a conversation about this, where we were talking about that narrow focus, and that I'm good at a lot of things, but I'm not fantastic at like, one. But the reason that I know where I want to be fantastic is that I've tried all these things and given them a stress test of like putting enough effort to see if it's worth my time. Like merch. That we can talk about that. Yeah. I made this like crazy different colored suit because the eclectic colors is kind of like a vibrant all over the place. But I'm not making a full merch line for this time because last time, that was a piece of art for the uncomfortable sweatsuits and stuff. Like I treated that, I didn't realize it at the time, but it wasn't like I talked about it on the podcast, but it wasn't a great, like, profitable thing. Like I lost money on everything I sold. Like, but that's sick. I'm so excited for those people to have those things and like no one else to have anything even close. Like I haven't seen many designs that are even remotely whatever. And even if there were, I don't know, like I hand created all of those. I hand dyed all those and I hand pressed them. And at the time I had more time than reason to like put it elsewhere. So now I just made one suit for myself, and that I'm excited about. And I wish I could do that again, but I just don't have the time to really dive into that. And I hope that someday I have like a big enough audience where I can hand design things like this and then be able to like mass produce them to some degree and really challenge like apparel and other things. Like I was just talking about earlier with these glasses, I was like, I wish the stems were like a little lower. I'm always like, oh, I wish, I don't know. If things work out, I'm going to try to get as many like brand deals that make sense and are authentic to me. Cause I would hit up Zenny if I had like a platform. I'd be like, all right, let's do this and let's move it down a little bit. And then we just have like a one product collaboration. Like, I think that'd be so fun. I think it'd be so cool. Or just like find brands and people that I'm pumped about and like try to tell cool stories, but like making sure that I'm pumped about it, not like just selling out to like anybody who'll throw me money.
Well, as we approach an hour here, I would like to give you a chance to tell people where to find you, what to look for, and like you said earlier, that you often look back on these, so maybe a short message for future Jared when he watches this.
Oh man, that almost feels like an insane amount of pressure, but yeah, you can find me almost everywhere. Smilebro Smilebro Music, smilebro.org, because .com was taken and I didn't want to pay a ton for it. That wasn't worth mentioning that long. Yeah, got music. I do photos. I do 3D stuff. I like telling stories, like I said earlier. Something to tell my future self. I hope I don't know, like, even if we fell off the side of the earth and like failed miserably, I'm still proud of you. I'm pumped about this journey, and like, if I fall on my face, that's okay. And if it goes really well, that's okay too. I don't know. I just love making stuff with people I'm pumped about. And I love life, I love this journey that I created for myself. So I'm excited to see where it goes. And I'm excited for where this goes. The Triple Falls podcast, Triple Falls, catch them everywhere. Some of the best dudes. I spend most of my time willingly outside of camera time with them. I think they're worthwhile in every form of existence that you could have with them. So I appreciate you guys, and I'm excited for the future.
I know we all individually got a ton of love for you and future Jared. Future Jared, we're proud of you.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say specifically, you've been very inspiring to me. Your drive, creativity. I literally seen one of your photos made me realize that photos don't have to look a certain way. Like, just thanks for being a buddy to me and all of us.
Yeah, that's sick. Yeah, I know we're trying to wrap up or whatever, but I was reminded of that concept that we've had recently, of like, what if tomorrow someone told me, hey, you're like headlining Lollapalooza, and like the album that you just put out has like a million or is multi-platinum or whatever. I'd almost be like very extremely sad, because I'm excited for getting there. I'm excited for everything along that way. So with whatever journey Triple Falls and all you guys individually are on, like, I'm excited for the journey probably more than the destination of reaching our fantastic goals that we set out for ourselves. So yeah, I love you guys and appreciate everything you do.
We better play a show together in the future, even though you'll be a big LA boy.
Dude, you guys can hit me up whenever. You guys have a green card to...
Oh, I don't care about them. I just want to play a show with you. They can say
I will desperately try to rip all of you guys on the tour if I have the means to make it worth your while.
Vlog time.
Yeah. Well, we love you too, Jared, and it's been cool seeing the project evolve.
Oh, Willis's camera is dead, but he's there, I promise.
Oh no. I wanted to actually mention that I was checking out smilebro.org site, and it's dope. So if you want to check out Smilebro's project, go browse, just see what he's got going on. It's cool. Yeah. And I guess bye.
That's it. Yeah. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. Thank you.